Hello and welcome back. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana, and you are watching Marksman TV. Today I have another tabletop review and comparison for you. We will be looking primarily at the differences between the new Ruger Wrangler and the Heritage Rough Rider. Now also here on the side for comparison, I do have an original Colt Single Action Army or Peacemaker, whatever you want to call it, which I'm going to be using as a baseline comparison for the other two. Now these are 22 long rifle sort of clones or representations of based on the original Single Action Army. So as I go through these, I'm just going to do some comparisons to the original just to see some sort of the design features that they've changed. So if you're looking for something that's more closely related to the original, if that interests you, then you'll have that for a baseline comparison there as well. But anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into it now. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the unboxing of the Heritage Rough Rider. It does come in a cardboard box, cable lock, and all of that. And then there is the revolver, and that's basically it. Now you can get these variations with a 22 Magnum cylinder, which would be fitted in there. You're going to add about maybe $50 to the cost, making it around about a $200 package if you get the one with the conversion cylinder there. Alright, and then the unboxing of the Ruger Wrangler also comes in a cardboard box. Here is the revolver. Okay, nothing else really other than a gun safety cable lock, and that is it. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into a spec comparison of each, starting here with the Ruger Wrangler. It does have a barrel length of 4 5/8 inches. It is 7 5/8 inches long, and it is 4 3/4 inches tall. Now, the Heritage Rough Rider does have a barrel length of 4 3/4. It is 8 inches in overall length, and it is 4 3/4 inches tall. Now, the Heritage line, which has been out for a while, does come in an array of different barrel lengths, just like the original Single Action Army did. So the original Single Action Army would have come in 4 3/4, 5 1/2, and 7 1/2. Now, this particular one here is 4 3/4 inches on the barrel. It is 8 inches overall in length and 5 inches tall. So actually, side by side, dimensional wise, much closer on the Heritage to the original versus the Wrangler. Now the Wrangler is a little bit smaller, only by about a fraction of an inch on each regard to the original. But again, it's just, you know, you don't really need that exact one-to-one replica. But again, for those that are interested in something a little bit closer related in size to a Single Action Army, that is there for you. Now, people who are training for like single action shooting and things like that, who might be using a full-size standard Colt Single Action Army or like a Cimarron clone or a Uberti, anything like that, might be more interested in something dimensionally a little bit closer related to the Single Action Army, which is again why I have this here for comparison. So let's go ahead and take a look at their weights. I'm going to start here with the Heritage Rough Rider. It does have a weight of 1 pound 14 ounces. The Wrangler, 1 pound 14 ounces as well. And the Single Action Army as a baseline comparison, 2 pounds 6 ounces. So obviously the Single Action Army is going to be 2 pounds 3.9 ounces. So obviously the Single Action Army is going to be heavier. It is a full steel frame firearm and a larger caliber. That goes without saying. So you are going to be at about the same weight between the Wrangler and the Heritage, at about maybe about 4 or 5 ounces lighter than an original Single Action Army. Now let's go ahead and talk about function and operation, starting here with the Single Action Army, so you can see how the original was designed to work, and then how the 22 variants over here sort of either are the same or different. So starting off with the Single Action Army, it does have a 6-round capacity, 6 rounds in the cylinder. Now it's typical that these would be carried with 5. You would load 1, skip 1, and then load 4. That way your hammer is rested on an empty chamber. That's just the typical way that these were carried, as there was no type of transfer bar or any type of safety device on these. So in order to load the firearm, you would open the loading gate and bring the hammer to half cock. That would be 2 clicks. An original Single Action Army would have 4 clicks on the hammer. From this position, you could freely turn the cylinder. So with the loading gate open, you could index an empty cylinder here through the loading gate, load a cartridge. Again, you would skip 1, load 4 more, 3 and 4, and then close. And then when you drop the hammer, hopefully not like I just did, but you're on an empty chamber. Maybe that demonstrates why they did that. Now, when the firearm is empty and you want to reload, again, you would bring the hammer to half cock, open up that loading gate. Now, this is your ejector rod here. It pushes cartridges out from the cylinder through the back, like that. You rotate, repeat the cycle until all chambers are empty. Now you're already in the loading position. Go ahead and load your 5 or 6, however you want to carry. More cartridges, go ahead and close that, hammer down, and then when you go to cycle the action again, you're on a loaded chamber. Now, of course, this is a single action only, where they get Single Action Army. So what that basically means is every time you have to bring the hammer back, fire the revolver, bring the hammer back, fire the revolver. It is no double action. With the hammer down and pulling the trigger does nothing. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and discuss how the Heritage Rough Rider functions. So, there's going to be a lot of similarities here. It is also single action only. You must bring the hammer back to fire every time. Now, one big difference here that they've added is a safety feature. This is a manual safety on the side of the back. If you see the red means dead, it's ready to fire. If the red is covered, it's on safe. And what that effectively is doing is pushing a little block here, so when the hammer drops, it cannot engage the back of the firing pin. Now, with the safety on or off, the hammer is operational, and so is the trigger. So all it does is engages a hammer block, if you will. Now, to load the revolver is going to be much the same way. I have to open the loading gate. Now, you will see that if the hammer is down, I cannot turn the cylinder. That is exactly like an original Single Action Army. I have to bring the hammer to half cock, which is 2 clicks. From there, I can freely spin the cylinder, and the loading process would be exactly the same as was on the original Single Action Army. If I continue shooting and I'm empty, bring it to half cock, open the loading gate, and then there's my ejector rod, just like on an original. So functionally just the same, except you do have a little safety device there in the back. Now, the Ruger Wrangler is going to be a little bit different. Of course, it is also single action only, so you do have a loading gate here on this side as well. Now, in order to load cartridges, you just have to open up the loading gate. You do not need to half cock the hammer. In fact, the hammer does not have a half cock position. All you have to do is just go ahead, once the loading gate's open, you can freely turn the cylinder to load and unload. What is effectively allowing that to happen is there is a cylinder stop down here in the bottom of the frame. And you guys you can barely see it right down there. And watch what happens when I open up the loading gate. It drops it out of the way, which then unlocks the cylinder, allowing it to turn. When I close the loading gate, you'll see it, hopefully there, pop back up. There it goes. And now it's locking up the cylinder again. That's basically when you turn the cylinder, that is what pops up and locks the cylinder in place into these corresponding notches here. Now, there is no, like I said, half cock feature, so it goes either completely down or completely cocked. There is no middle position. You hear that click there, but it doesn't lock. Now, as far as the safety feature goes, there is a transfer bar back here, so you will see right there that transfer bar. As the hammer starts to lower, the transfer bar will raise. Let's see if I can get this right. See how it goes up there when I pull the trigger, giving it a connection between the hammer and the firing pin, allowing it to fire. Now, without the hammer or without the trigger being pulled, that stays down. So if you were to drop this in this condition, break the hammer, sending it into the back of the firing pin, it is not going to discharge because the trigger was not pulled. That transfer bar did not raise, creating that connection like that. So looking at the barrel of the Single Action Army, the original one, it is very simple. You just have the barrel here, and then there's the ejector rod housing right there. And then the front sight is a fixed, sort of a half moon shape there to the front. The Heritage Rough Rider is exactly the same way. Barrel, ejector housing, and the little sort of half moon sight right there on the top. As well as the Wrangler, exact same configuration. The sight looks a little bit different. It's more sort of tapers up and then gives a sharp edge here in the back. Gonna give a little bit of a better sight picture. Now, the top, you have just a open notch in the back and a gutter across the top of the frame. That is exactly how a original Single Action Army would have worked, and the Heritage Rough Rider is exactly the same way. Now, the most common factory grip configuration were these sort of, it's like a hard rubber, it's not a Bakelite, it's like a rubbery type plastic grip panel with the Colt pony logos right up here at the top. Now, the Wrangler is similar in design, looks very much the same, even has a little logo here, but of course it is the Ruger logo, but in terms of aesthetics, very similar. And on the Heritage Rough Rider, you do have Cocobolo wood grips that do come standard. They have different like laminate type grips and stuff too. Now, back in the day, you could put wood grips, ivory grips, pearl grips, whatever you wanted to on a Single Action Army, but the most common factory configuration was in those kind of hard rubber grips. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the trigger pull weight on the 3. Do have 7 pounds, 1.3 ounces. Now this trigger to me actually is very heavy. I think it was tuned. Very, very nice and crisp hammer. I've used this in another video and I think an action job was done on this, but 7 pounds, 1.3 ounces is a little bit heavy for a Colt Single Action Army. Could have just been that brand new springs were put in there, just kind of making it a little bit heavy. But anyway, that's the trigger pull weight on that one. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the weight on the Wrangler. 4 pounds, 9.1 ounces. And the Rough Rider. 3 pounds even. So this definitely is the lightest of the 3 and actually feels the lightest to me. Actually, this action is very smooth. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 clicks, just like an original Colt Single Action Army. I really like the action feel on the Rough Rider, so nice overall. And of course, the trigger on this feels nice as well. The trigger itself is a little bit wider than on an original Single Action Army or the Rough Rider. The Rough Rider is actually a trigger that is more indicative of the original Single Action Army, but this of course is going to feel a little bit better. It is a nice crisp trigger pull, but you can feel just a little bit heavier than on the Rough Rider. Okay, disassembly. Actually, disassembly is just removal of the cylinder if that's what you want to do, and all 3 of them are going to come apart the exact same way. Very simple. You just open up the loading gate. There is a base pin right down here with a little spring-loaded keeper. You push that and remove the base pin like so. With that removed, the cylinder, I think actually you have to be on half cock here, yeah. Yep, cylinder can then pop out of the frame, and that's really all there is to it there. The Wrangler is going to work very much the exact same way. A little spring thing here and a little base pin. Open up the loading gate. That's going to, like I said, drop that cylinder stop, so that's all you need to do. You do not need to bring back the hammer at all, and then that's how you remove that. And then on the Rough Rider, again, open up that loading gate, push on that and remove the base pin. This, bring it to half cock and drop the cylinder out there, and that's really all there is to it. So all 3 work the exact same way. Okay, a couple other points of comparison. Let's talk about the finish offering. So the original one, of course, would have been in a blued color case hardened or even a nickel. The Wrangler currently is offered in an all black, this sort of silver, and then a bronze color finish, and all 3 of those are a Cerakoted option, and this is an alloy frame. Now the Heritage Rough Rider has those options as well. You can get it with a steel frame, and this particular one is blued. They do have the color case hardening as well. They have the different grip types, different barrel lengths, so there is a little bit more variety there. Now the Wrangler did just hit the market, so more options are likely to come. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a pretty popular offering. The barrel length offering on this is only in that 4 5/8 inch barrel configuration. They may come out with more in the future. Also, the Rough Rider does have the 22 Magnum conversion cylinder option that you can get. The Wrangler does not have that as of right now. Heritage has also come out with the full-size, full-caliber offerings, which are going to be a little bit more related in size and weight to the original Single Action Army. Now, Colt did make a 22 version. I believe it was called the Frontier. I'll roll in. I should have looked that up before I started this video. Unfortunately, I did not have one of those for comparison, but either way, it might, like I have said, it would be pretty good that if somebody's going to get a 22 clone, how closely does it relate to the actual full-size original 6-shooter? I mean, keep in mind, if you have an interest in these, you probably like to watch the old John Wayne movies or the old cowboy shows. where of course they were using the traditional Colt Single Action Army. So if you want something like that for your collection, how closely does it relate is sort of an interesting point for comparison. Now, some general takeaways here. Let's talk about the price point. So the Heritage Rough Rider in this configuration, just with the 22 LR cylinder, is going to be at about $100 to $150. If you get the conversions, add about $50. The different finish options and grip options can make the price go up from there. But generally, you're not going to find these in any type of 22 configuration for more than about $250 to $300. The Wrangler right now, again, they only have in this configuration, they are going to be retailing between about $200 to $250, probably closer to the $200 mark. You might see them a little bit more expensive now because they did just release. The original Single Action Army, of course, they made the 3 variations of those, the 3 different series or generations, and of course the prices on these are going to widely vary, but don't expect to pay for an original one any less than about $1,000, even if it's a new manufactured 3rd gen. Those used are about 12 to 15. The 1st gens like this can get up pretty high as well. So, but that doesn't really matter. Now, the point or the practicality of getting one of these, like I have said, there's basically a few different reasons why somebody might want to get these. They are fun range plinkers where you can go out on the range, have a lot of fun, shoot your 22 long rifle ammo. My father-in-law has owned one of these Heritage revolvers for about 8 or 9 years, and typically it goes in the range bag with him just because it's a fun way to sort of shoot off some 22 and give your 9s and 45s and 40s a little bit of a break on the range, while also getting that sort of Colt Single Action Army type of style, which is fun and different and unique, a little bit different than a double action swing out cylinder revolver. Now, how close does the firearm need to be related to an original? That's really up to you. The other practicality there that a lot of people might like I have said, is if they are doing competition shooting, SASS, Single Action Shooting Society, Cowboy Action Shooting, and they want to be able to practice without burning up all of their 45 Colt ammunition or 44-40 ammunition on a 22 that feels similar enough to this. So a good training ancillary sort of device there as well. Also, because of the price point, they do make great starters for kids who are learning to shoot 22 pistols. Being a single action only with the safety features that these offer, they are a good option for that. It slows the kid down. They have to meticulously load and unload the revolver. Being single action only, they have to be more deliberate with the rounds that they're sending down range. So for that, it gives a lot more technical sort of approach to shooting, especially in a low caliber like 22, so a great training option. Also, if you're thinking about getting your kid into shooting, the $100 to $200 price point is a great entry-level price point, where if your kid doesn't stay interested in shooting, you haven't really spent a ton of money on a firearm. So, and it's also, again, if they don't have an interest in it, you have a nice 22 for your collection. The similarities, what I sort of see the approach that each one took is, it seems to me is that Heritage tried to more follow in line with the Colt Single Action Army and keep it as closely related to the original as possible. That's very obvious with the 4 clicks on this cylinder. The barrel length being the same, the size dimensions being pretty similar, the trigger being pretty similar, the hammer configuration being similar. It just seems to me like it was really designed to be more closely related to the Single Action Army, whereas to me the Wrangler was more using an original Single Action Army for inspiration. Of course, it has the lines and the look and the feel, but technically and functionally they are very different. They could have gotten it closer with the 4 clicks on the hammer, or at least a half-cock position to load and unload. It seems to me like what Ruger likes to do is take old designs, kind of use the finesse and the sort of nice appeal of those older firearms, and then add in their own flavor to it and sort of modernizing it a little bit. We saw that like on the Blackhawks and the Vaqueros. The Vaquero was more of a full frame Single Action Army clone, but again had a lot of differences, a lot of the same differences that we see on the Wrangler. So you have the transfer bar, of course, the 2 hammer positions. Now I am happy that they didn't try and do anything like add fiber optic sights or anything like that, but again, they kept it as close as possible while bringing it into the year 2019 for a more modern minded shooter, making it a little bit less complicated to load and unload and all that, a little bit less process there. But anyway, guys, I will leave you there. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that bell notification button. If you have any questions, please leave those down in the comment section. Again, thank you so much for stopping by and checking out my video. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV, and I will see you next time.